Hello everybody, today we are going to take a look at my new adventure, The Fate of the Nautilus. The Fate of the Nautilus is a nautical horror themed adventure for Shadowdark, but it can easily be adapted to other D20 systems like D&D 5th edition or Dungeon Crawl Classics. So if we're taking a look here, we start off the adventure with a nice little cover art by Anne Wilch, the illustrator for this cover art. And I really like this one because it exemplifies many things about this adventure. We have a big old eel, kind of being ominous. We have a ship, which plays a heavy role in the adventure. We have light mechanics, which are going to show up during the adventure. Lightness and darkness, and so I think it really exemplifies this adventure quite well. If we are going into the adventure itself, it's a PDF. It is fully linked. We will use that functionality a couple of times during this video, where you can just click on stuff that you want to know more about, and it will take you to that section within the document. First off, we have the background of the adventure. We have a little quest hook and a little background on what the ship, the Nautilus, was actually about. And we also have a list of important characters, and if we're going even further down, even a list of factions. So what is this adventure actually about? The quest hook itself is that a ship has vanished about 1 month ago. The ship was called the Nautilus, and it was setting sail to hunt for treasure, but has since gone missing. And everybody who went out to search for the ship went missing as well. So the question arises, is this crew still alive? What legendary treasure might they have unearthed? And what fate befell this ship? The actual mission of the Nautilus that will be unveiled during the adventure, if the players are interested in learning more about it, is that while it was officially treasure hunting, in reality they were researching a rare species of glass eel. They were said to be able to control the human body by replacing their victims' tongues and basically controlling them like puppets from the inside. So some shadowy figures had an interest in researching them, probably for some very nefarious purposes. And this research went wrong, as it should, and these glass eels kind of overtook the ship, controlling the researchers and sailors' bodies like puppets. So now on the ship there are the puppet-like controlled bodies, there are survivors, and there are also ghosts, the ghosts of the people who died when that ship happened. So we have the glass eels as a faction, we have the crew, and we have the scientists that worked on it. Technically we also have like an ominous lurking faction that isn't really in the adventure, but its presence can be felt nonetheless, and that is the Auriga Shipping Company. These are the shadowy figures behind all of this. So this kind of like gives you an overview of what they're all about. The glass eels kind of like are led by this like mother eel figure called the Eel Possessed, the original eel who possessed like one of the lead scientists. Later in the adventure there are even some notes you can find from the scientist, what kind of happened and transpired in the adventure. And the crew were taken by surprise. They didn't really know that that was the original purpose that they were setting out to do. They thought they were just treasure hunting. And some of them actually survived and are now like bunkering down in the machine room. And they can be reasoned with, they can like give you quests. You can even give them coal so that they light up the machines once again, make the ship functional again. And that has something to do with light mechanics that we will come to later. The scientists did know what was going on, though they did not necessarily agree with all of it. Like, they didn't know the full extent of it until, like, the lead scientists kind of, like, started doing all of these weird experiments. And so when you, like, meet the scientists on the ship and they still survive, it might be 50-50 if they're up to some nefarious purpose or if they're just shocked by what happened. We also have the ghosts. These are basically the people who died in this incident, kind of like trapped in this like loop of repeating the day that they died in. So they kind of behave normally if the light is on, like the electricity is on and everything seems normal. They also kind of like treat the whole situation as if they were real and still members of the ship, so they don't even acknowledge that they're ghosts. Once the lights flicker, which we will get to, the light levels can change in the ship, they get kind of spooked and scared and might even realize something is wrong with them. Once the lights are off, they're like out for revenge and they're like really, really dangerous as well. This ship can also sink. I don't know if you can tell. I'm German. English is not my original language. But these people can make the ship sink. So your players, maybe even NPCs if they want to, and there are different triggers throughout the ship. Like, for example, somebody could manipulate the engine, somebody could use explosives that are on the ship, somebody could use like a cursed magical artifact. So there is a chance that the ship will sink during the adventure. To have like kind of a fun Titanic moment where everybody scrambles to get off the ship. And the way it sinks is actually very gamified. We have like maps of the ship, we have like multiple decks of the ship that are from the top-down perspective. But when the ship sinks, it kind of like lists, it tilts, kind of like the Costa Concordia sank, if you are aware of that tragedy. So it kind of like tilts to a side instead of sinking like this. And the way you represent that, especially if you have the map out on a virtual tabletop, is that you kind of flip the map from being a top-down perspective, where you're looking at everything from a bird's eye view, to being kind of like a side-scroller, like a Super Mario game. So in that way, suddenly things that were not a challenge at all suddenly become a challenge. Like, for example, the way certain corridors are laid out are very straightforward and normal while the ship is in a normal position, but once it's tilted and the whole world kind of like completely does like a 90-degree shift, become actually like kind of a challenge, and you need to traverse them in a different way. And of course the different levels also start to flood, giving that extra time pressure. There are some secrets that you can give to the players, and these secrets are meant to cause paranoia amongst your players. These are basically missions that each player got individually, and they differ from each other, and they sometimes even have competing goals. They're not competing to the effect that the players would like kill themselves over it, I would say. I don't think they would like get that far, but they are sure to see some paranoia between the players, what each player's goal actually is in that mission. That is very much inspired by like sailors getting mad on the high seas. If you have seen the movie The Lighthouse, I think you know what I'm up to here. And this is meant to like, because all of these kind of like have a secretive and manipulative aspect to them. So even though not each of these missions is actually, does actually kind of like exclude the other, it still leads to the players getting a little paranoid. For example, if you're getting the mission, the ship company has offered you 200 gold pieces to sink the ship. Now, maybe you will behave a little suspiciously, right? Because you want to sink that ship, even though it might not even be beneficial to your mission. And because you know you have that mission, you might also think that other people might have different missions that are also nefarious. So hopefully this gives a little bit of an air of paranoia to the whole thing. If that's not really your thing, you can also just give these missions out in the open and the players can openly discuss how they can get the most out of it and split the rewards amongst each other. If that kind of like a little bit antagonistic play is not for you. You can also just leave them out. They're not really essential. They're just a little fun thing. We also have light and danger. We kind of briefly touched upon this with the ghosts, but there are different light levels. This ship is kind of like a 19th to 20th century research vessel, which might even clash a little bit with a lot of like the Shadowdark settings, which is a little bit of my intention. I kind of want this to feel technologically a little bit advanced in comparison to the adventurers, to create an advanced air of mystique around the ship. And that means that the ship is lit up by electric light, electric lamps. And that means that the levels can vary across the whole ship at once. So either the lights are completely on, then the ship is a little less dangerous, there's not a high chance of an encounter. If the lights flicker, then the chance is increased and also some things in the ship are a little more dangerous. And if the lights are off, it's completely dark, it's very scary, it gets very dangerous. And the players can go to the machine room if they have enough coal to light it up again to change the light levels. So the players will always need to figure out if they are cool with researching stuff on a low light level or if they want to take the extra time and effort to keep the lights on at all times. We also have a little encounter table here, and here it really comes in handy that this thing is fully linked. For example, if you roll on the encounter table and you're like, whoa, 3d6 eelmen are approaching the players. Now, if you click on the eelmen, you will be taken directly to the page where their stat block is. And that means that you will have kind of like an easier time navigating through this document, because this is prevalent. Like whenever you want to know more about something, you can kind of like hedge your bets here that it's probably linked. There's also like a little menu on the side of the PDF, like a table of contents. It is not really like visible in this little view that I got for you guys, but you can navigate on this to kind of like go to the bigger sections and titles of this adventure. Now, the beginning of the adventure is basically the players have traveled with their own little ship and have found the Nautilus. And they have like this imposing giant ship. It's probably bigger than the ships that the players have, especially if you're like playing more of a like medieval or like early Renaissance inspired setting. It's really big and very imposing, like black. Maybe there's a little bit of fog there, so it's kind of ominous. And they have like different points of entries that they can get into the ship. There's a little opening at the rear end of the ship where there's like a rescue vessel and a little ladder. It's like the obvious place to get on. There is an overgrown anchor chain that provides this slippery ascent. And there is, of course, the possibility to just try to get on the deck. It's very high, but if somebody has like a grappling hook or something, they can also get on the deck. We will go through this adventure assuming that the players went through the small opening at the rear end of the ship, but it functions either way. So regardless of where they get in, it's not like the adventure won't function if they get in at like an unusual spot. It's pretty resilient to player shenanigans, I would say. Here we have the map of the lower part of the ship. And this part is called the midsection. And here we have the area 21, which is this little area, the rear end of the ship, where the players could get on. We also have the area 24 here, where the anchor chain is. So these are like the different parts of the ship that they could get on. And we have little like ladders, not ladders, stairs that go up. We also have ladders that go up, and we have an elevator that goes down. These rooms are very varied, quite different from each other. The first room here, room 21, is kind of like a little scare where they find a little man or a corpse, so to speak, in the rescue vessel. Probably someone who tried to escape and failed at the last second. And there we have like the first appearance of the glass eel, where when they try to investigate, this like glass eel pops out of the mouth and does a little bite. A little early scare to set the mood. The room 22 here, that's actually, what is this called again? The dining hall, yeah. You can also like click on these numbers in order to get to there. So if you're like, huh, where's the dining hall here in this adventure? Bam, you click on it and you're there. And the dining hall is very creepy because there's like this long hall with people dining, but none of them are actually alive. They're like puppets controlled by the glass eels, so they like very mechanically imitate how people would eat, but there's not actually any food there, and they're just grinding their cutlery onto each other, and it's very creepy. And they could also attack, especially like if the light is off. At the beginning of the adventure the light is on though. Every like 30 minutes the light level changes. So at the beginning this will mostly be just a creepy thing and the players might not think much about it. But since this is like very central to the adventure, this is like one of the more frequented areas of the adventure, they're almost guaranteed to come back at a later time when the light levels are lower. So this is almost like a little teaser of the dangers in this adventure. Of course there are some more things that you can do, but I don't want to get into every nitty-gritty detail of the adventure just now. From here you can either get up to the upper cabins, or you can go down to the bow of the ship. And also there's like this room here, room 23, that is a submarine. They have like a steampunk submarine in there. They're pretty crazy. Where you can also encounter the eel possessed, which is kind of like the main boss, if you want to say that, of this adventure, like the main bad guy. Pretty tough, pretty hard to beat, very scary. You might wonder why this boss comes up this early, but the truth is that this door here is actually not openable from this section here, from the dining hall. So they can't actually get through here by normal means, at least. So I would say let's go a little lower here. Let's go to the bowels of the ship. The bowels of the ship you can get to by this elevator. And the elevator is a little bit scary too. I like the elevator because the elevator functions perfectly normal when the players will probably first encounter it, which is when the lights are on. But if the lights are flickering or off, there's a chance that the elevator won't even work or get stuck somewhere. And of course, then it would be very nice for some bad guys to show up in this claustrophobic space, kind of like hammering on from the outside. So this is how you get down. And here you have like different passageways that you can take. There's like a machine room way back here, the machine room that we talked about with the crew members that you can get into. But in order to get there, you actually need to pass through the gear room. And the gear room is like kind of dangerous. It's like this machine room with like this gear hazard where players can get trapped in and even get crushed by these like moving gears. So they will probably want to take the passageway around here, but this one is locked, of course. So if they want to get a key, they will need to find a key. And the way they might get a key is that they can get into this other area here, which is the secret research area. There's obviously like a little trap here before you get into there, because the crew members weren't supposed to go here, so it's a little anti-human design so that not anybody can just waltz in here. And then there's like a big aquarium with like creepy eggs of the eels, and there are also swarms of glass eels in there. There are like these diving suits, these like strange steampunk inspired diving suits that the players can don on. Especially useful if the ship starts to sink and they need to like move through water. And a little secret area behind like a smaller aquarium as well, with like the notes of the researchers that worked there. And you can also find treasure here. If we click on it, area 13, there is a treasure chest which contains the coral crown of Foambeard, which is this cursed item that might very well lead to the sinking of the ship. It's also very powerful in general, so the players will feel a sense of accomplishment. We also have this like very cool artwork here somewhere. Here it is, of the aquarium, which is also just wonderful. All of the artists that were contributing to this project, this is actually like a Creative Commons picture, like a picture of an artist which is like so old that it has like gone over into like the public ownership. But all of the artists, including those, are mentioned in the front so that you know who you can look for if you're interested in more art like this. Here is a little picture of the diving suit as well. Yeah, so this is this area here. Very creepy. They might actually take a long time in here. And the only light at the end of the tunnel is basically this area here, the machine room, where the crew members are. The crew is very interesting, because the crew are like mostly sailors, and they are looking for their captain. And their captain is somewhere completely different. Their captain is way up in like the deck part of the ship, steering the ship a little bit. The captain is actually a ghost, so the captain can't actually steer the ship himself. He will need help of the players. But the crew is still thinking that their captain might be alive, and they're kind of looking for the captain, so the players can gain favor with them if they get the captain. The crew is also multilingual, which will maybe bring into play an aspect that I feel like is often overlooked in adventures, which is that the languages do not matter that much. They do matter here. Whenever the players encounter crew members, they will need to contend with the fact that they might speak a different language. This is kind of, it has something to do with what you roll here. You have like a little table of like different languages. And this is kind of meant to reflect that sailors were often of like very different nations working together on a ship. So there's a little potential like role-playing challenge here, or a little fun reveal when a player is like, I can speak Goblin, which might be very fun. So, these are the bowels of the ship. I would say, let's actually go up a bit. Let's go to the upper cabins. This would be when you... Are we here, are we? When you go like from the dining hall, not through the elevator, but if you actually go up. There are the upper cabins. And the upper cabins are basically the areas where the crew was hanging out, sleeping for the most part. And we have a little hallway, a little corridor here, where you might encounter a group of shanty ghosts. These are the ghosts of the crew members I talked about. They like doing normal crew member stuff if the lights are on, and if the lights are flickering, they are very paranoid and kind of like relive the moments of their demise. And if the lights are off, they're completely unhinged and very dangerous. So you might encounter them here. There are also like cabins that all have like, they have the same number here, right? Like cabins 32, 32, 32, 33, 33, 33. These are basically essentially the same rooms, but there's like an element of randomness to them, so that players might be incentivized to go through all of them in order to pick up different items. You also have this room here, room 35, which is like more of a luxurious room, kind of like implicating that an important passenger might be in here. The luxury cabin, and there's actually a silken sorceress in there, which is kind of like a mystery character. It's not really completely clear what her deal is. And the players might never find out. There's not really like a strict lore behind this silken sorceress, but she wants the coral crown of Foambeard, which we already talked about. So that might be a little fun thing, a little fun quest for the players to receive. It is getting very bright in here. I might actually close the blanks here for a moment. Alright, and there I am again. I hope I look less like a ghost now. So, she can actually heal the group in exchange for getting that. If that is worth it, is completely up for the group. There also is like a little secret passageway which leads to this like mysterious mirror, which is one of the escapes of the ship. So especially if your player's feeling a little trapped or are in a pickle, they can use this mirror to get away. Because it's kind of like a portal. Teleportation portal. This can lead them to other parts of the ship, or it can lead them to a place that is important to one of the player characters. This is also kind of like an enigma, like kind of like a strange thing that is on the ship that is meant to add mystique without necessarily relating to the grander plot. If you leave the upper cabins through this staircase here, you can get to the deck of the ship. This is the deck of the ship. You can see the big old chutes who come out of the ship with a lot of smoke if the machinery is working. And you get out here in Area 41. Area 41 is a burial at sea. There are like a lot of caskets of the crew members who died. There's like a barricade that kind of like insinuates that there might have been like a battle between the eel-possessed crew members and the remaining crew members. And if the players have a priest, they might actually be able to set these sailors here to rest and get rid of the shanty ghosts. They might want to think about that though, because some of these shanty ghosts are pretty useful, especially the captain. So it's kind of like a when will I do this situation where they should do it at a certain point because it's like the right thing to do and it also gives experience points, but they might want to hold off for a moment. We have some rescue vessels here that the players can use to escape. And we also have Area 42, which is very interesting. It's the eerie dance. They are basically a lot of the crew members, like the ghosts of the crew members, the shanty ghosts, just dancing together, singing sea shanties, and the players can interact with them, can try to even get a dance with them, which might be very dangerous, but it also has its upside. So players might become a little mad when they do this, but they will also gain experience points because it's an experience to dance with a ghost. And trying to weave through there, kind of like evading all of these like dancing ghost-like figures, can also be very fun. The players can also get to Area 45 and 44. Area 44 is like a coal storage unit where they can get the coal for way down in the ship to up the machineries. If the players were already in the machine room and they would need to backtrack the whole way, I would actually think about maybe using the time passes rule of Shadowdark, because they will have to backtrack quite a bit if they do so. If you want to up the feeling of danger, you can just let them do this and just use the encounters to spice this backtracking up. If this ship is already like going down, this might also be very interesting. But if you're feeling like the pacing is dragging a little bit, you're very welcome to just say, alright, we're going to use the time passes rule from Shadowdark, and you just backtrack the whole way down to the crew members in the machine room. This might be like a little more beneficial to the pacing, I would say. And there's also the big prize, Area 45. Area 45 is the wheelhouse. There is the captain in there, and this captain wants to get you to use the coal to fire up the machines in the machine room. And as a reward, the captain will actually bestow the title of captain to one of the members of the adventuring group. So they will get a cool new title, which is very cool. That means that they are now the captain. Of course, you can also like roleplay that as the shanty ghosts now listening to the command of this new captain. And they also can claim ownership of the ship. So if the ship didn't sink or go down in any way during the adventure, the players might now have like a really cool and unique ship, which is also very fun. And once the machines are up, they can use the steering wheel to get back to a harbor. Or, if they have the little secret mission of destroying the ship, they can also steer it into rocks in order to sink the ship. Regarding enemies, we have the glass eels that come up during various parts of the adventure. We have the swarm of glass eels, which are kind of dangerous. They're like this, just a swarm of eels basically. But the thing that makes them dangerous is that they can kind of like eat your tongue and replace it and then slowly take control over your body. This is explained with, let's call it like an infection of the glass tongue, which is this condition where the player characters like slowly get eaten inside out. But while this process is happening, they also gain some abilities. Like they gain this like glass eel tongue attack, and then they can also I think they can also breathe underwater, right? Yeah, they can breathe underwater and have this cool bite attack, an additional bite attack. So they are actually very strong in this form. But of course, at a certain point, if this glass eel tongue does not get removed, they will turn against their party, which might be a dramatic moment. You can try to remove the glass eel, but this is very dangerous and might result in a character death if performed wrong. So either way, the stakes are very high if a character gets infected. We also have the eel man, which are just sailors who have their tongue replaced. You can imagine them as being flavorful zombies. Just kind of like, not zombies in the classical sense, but they all run around, mouth open, eel kind of sticking out like this. Which is very fun. I hope nobody clips that out of context. And we have the eel possessed. The eel possessed is like the big bad, so to speak. If you want to call the eel possessed a big bad, I guess there's an argument to be made that this is a man-made horror. But this thing basically wants to place eggs inside of you, which is kind of like the glass tongue thingy. And it also has like a very long neck. This thing is very scary. It has like a very long range of attack because its neck can just extend for so long. And kind of a scary opponent. Then we have the crew, consisting of the sailors, which we already talked about. We have the scientists, which might show up as a random encounter. So maybe you will encounter them, maybe not. If you encounter them, there's like a chance they will try to secure specimens of the glass eels. So there's a little moral dilemma there. Will you support these scientists and maybe even get a reward? Or will you try to prevent these glass eels from going anywhere because they were not supposed to get out of the deep sea anyways? And we have the shanty ghosts, which we already talked about quite a bit. They can inflict madness, which is has like rules, which are all kind of, I don't want to use the word fun, but they're very interesting. Like, a lot of them are bad, but some of them are also kind of interesting or good. Like maybe you get like nightmares and you have like trouble sleeping well. Maybe you get inflicted with thalassophobia, the being scared of deep water basically. A panic against like creatures of the deep sea. A mad gaze, which kind of like lowers your ability to form like social bonds but ups your ability to intimidate people. A sixth sense, which is just kind of good. You lose your ability to speak, which is obviously bad, but instead you can telepathically communicate with nearby creatures. And Cosmic Truth, which is kind of like your third eye opening, and you can like suddenly use a high-level Shadowdark spell, Fabricate, to just create things out of nothing, which is very fun. But all of the spells you do with this will seem kind of off and vaguely ocean-themed to add a little Cthulhu-esque horror element to it. You can also find a lot of treasure. We have gillweed, which is a thing that comes up in the aquarium, where you can get this cool like weed that enables you to breathe underwater. But there's a very small chance that instead of enabling you to breathe, it will start planting its seeds inside of your lungs and then grow out of your lungs. These things even are like, they look like lungs, kind of like turned inside out. So they also have like this scary horror element to them. The players might not want to use them initially, but I mean, if they're drowning, who knows? The Coral Crown of Foambeard is a very powerful artifact the players can get. I would even say this might even be like a 10 experience points artifact. Like this is really good. It gives like the ability to control water, to command creatures of the sea. It's very strong, but it also gives you a curse that you really want to put down ships. You want to sink ships, which is a problem if you're on a ship. You also have the eel eggs. There are little eggs that you can also find in the aquarium, which can restore spells if you eat them, but you can also become mad. A little good luck charm from a sailor you can find. There's like a little implied love story there of like a sailor being like kind of like lost at sea, and like another sailor being like in love with them, and they might have been dating, but like one of them is dead but has like this little heart-shaped locket, and it's very cute and tragic, and the players might get a little good luck charm out of that. The magnesium torches, which are like very bright torches that can blind the glass eels. The glass eels do not like bright light at all. They're kind of almost pacified while the bright light is on. The seaweed scrolls, which are fun little spell scrolls. If you don't speak Moran, you don't know which priest spells they contain. If you speak Moran, they're just normal spell scrolls. But otherwise, it's you don't know what they're actually doing. It's kind of a Hail Mary. And powder kegs, of course. If you want to explode parts of the ships, you can. And then there's a little handout of the scientist who worked on this. So, this was the fate of the Nautilus. You can get this adventure on my website, www.professor-grim.com, and I encourage you to do it. It's a very fun adventure. If you want to check out other adventures, I also have the Tomb of the Moon Knight on there, which I also have a walkthrough of on this channel, and also some fun Shadowdark classes. And you can even get the Tomb of the Moon Knight for free if you sign up to the newsletter, which will always keep you informed of stuff like this. So I hope that you check it out, and if you do check it out, please let me know how your playing it worked out, what your players thought, what you thought. I'm very interested in that. So without further ado, I wish you a very nice day, and until next time.